Rajappa. BWSSB is just across our road, and Rajappa went to the Supreme Court saying BWSSB should come within the four corners of undertaking as defined in the term industry and the Industrial Disputes Act. Now, what was the business of the judge? The business of the judge was to say whether BWSSB is or is not an industry. But he brought everything under that term. So much so that thereafter the Industrial Disputes Act could not function at all. It led to the very torpedoing of the whole legislation of the labor law. Clubs became industry, hospitals became industry, schools and colleges became industry. What was not industry, they asked him. And he said, ask the government, let them make a law to amend it. Why should we not control such judges? Through public opinion. A judge cannot sit and say whatever he likes, creating chaos and confusion in the legal system. That is law for us today. But who has dared to say that law is not correct? It is confusion. It is going to defeat the very purpose of Industrial Disputes Act. We debated with our students. We debated at national forums. But the situation remains exactly how it was in 1978. From then onwards till today, 30 years next year, that decision prevails, the confusion prevails, and the labor is in total disorder. Now, do we not have guts to say that? We should say, this is the forum. Forum of public opinion. This decision requires to be reviewed by the Supreme Court and go back if the Parliament has no majority to pass a law to have two different sets of legislations. At least let us do something in terms of reviewing the case. That also did not happen. So it is not only we are talking about lawmaking in legislatures. Some of the decisions of the judges may also create a public problem, and we will have to tell them or talk to them and ask them how we are going. That's not the only decision of Justice Krishna. There are many others where he amended the law as he liked. In the Gujarat Steel Tubes case, he did it. And many other cases. He was a great judge, no doubt. We honor him, but what I'm saying is, can public accept it? As it is others, or is it going to be a confusing thing for everybody? Should everybody go to Supreme Court now to get relief? That was the question that we have to ask. Lastly, policy making process would have to have the following things in mind in terms of public opinion. I firmly believe that experts should analyze issues confronting sectors. In this country, least respect is given for experts. As if IAS people know everything, IPS know everything, IFS know everything. They are trained to administer, but they also should hear the experts in the country, is my submission. They make the law, and that's not the end of law. To make law and implement it, we require experts who can tell the pros and cons of legislation. Whether a law will succeed or not, an expert can tell. Whether it is engineering, or it is medicine, or it is computer, or it is IT, any system you take, you make a law without consulting the experts would be a total failure. A very valid example I would give, when I was assigned the task by Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Bombay, to make a law for nuclear liability. I had a big project, the biggest project I had in my academic career, and it was going to be a secret recommendation of mine to the Ministry of Science, directly under the Prime Minister, wherein if there is a leakage of radiation, when we are talking so much of nuclear deals now, but the basic issue is forgotten by us. If there is a leakage and people die, what is the remedy? What is the remedy? It has happened in US, it has happened in Japan, it has happened in Russia. Not that these things have not happened. And if it does happen, what is the remedy? For that, I have given an answer. Now, that is an expert letter, said opinion given. But till now, no law has been made. They will not do it because it has not originated within the administrative system. I am an outsider. I am a non-entity for the government. And that is where the government fails in India. Where government fails is it does not hear those who matter on issues which are of public interest. And I want that to happen. As a first case, this institute can call the experts, give the opinion to them and say you must. You may not accept it, but at least read it. At least know what the other people are saying about it. Second, information on all aspects to be given to lawmakers. Nothing. I know when Karnataka State Universities Act 2000 was passed in our assembly. You know the problems we are facing today under that act. Lecturers have become vice chancellors in charge. Yesterday in Bijapur University, Women's University, a lecturer has taken charge as the dean of a university. If this is going to be the effect of your legislation, why such a law is required at all? So many professors are there. So many deans are there. So many competent people are there. And what happens ultimately? Defeat of the whole process. And when the VC retires, when I left Gulbarga University, I had to give charge to a dean. It took 6 months to appoint a vice chancellor. 6 months. Having served 4 years, I was disqualified to continue. But a person who has no qualification could rule for 6 months under the legislation. You see the kind of tragedy of these legislations. You laugh at it, you weep at it because students are weeping and teachers are weeping in the universities. First thing I think we must take up this issue of Karnataka State Universities Act. Call all the persons concerned and tell them, amend it immediately. Amend it to say that somebody responsible must hold that position of a vice chancellor. You cease to respect that position thereafter. Who will respect it? Everybody becomes a laughing stock. Oh, you vice chancellor agiddu, avru agiddu. This is not the way of looking at things. We want the dignity of that office to be maintained for all time to come. Legal opinion must be asked before when somebody criticizes only, they send it to law department. Should you not take legal opinion on legislation that is coming? Whether it is within the constitution or ultra vires the constitution. Whether you have the power to legislate or not to legislate. That is not done. Lastly, policy makers are required to be honest, independent, having an intellectual breadth, depth to consider all aspects and arrive at optimum policy within reasonable time. My dear friends, all this is not done. There is basic dishonesty in whatever law we are making. If we are honest, we must hear the students when it matters, students like university, primary education, secondary education. We must listen to our students what they say. As a vice chancellor, I did it. I wanted to celebrate the silver jubilee of Gulbarga University. I knew I could not do it alone. I have 5 districts: Bidar, Raichur, Gulbarga, Ballari, Koppal. All these districts were there under me. I know they are poor. Students are very poor, very backward. I could not do what I like. I could have said, this is the law of the vice chancellor. I called meetings at 5 district headquarters. 2 years before the silver jubilee. Professor J.S. Patil is party to that process. Every headquarters we went, we talked to students, teachers, and principals. How do you feel we should celebrate the silver jubilee of Gulbarga University? They were so happy that somebody is asking them what to do. Have our legislators ever thought of asking us? With all our qualifications, have the legislators ever bothered to know what we are doing and how we are doing? Never. This is the tragedy of the democratic system of India. After I took their opinion, I prepared a program, I sent it, and you know how much money we collected? 50 lakhs of rupees from the students. 50 lakhs from student community of Gulbarga University, and that's how the President of India came, and so many people came and we had it. This is not a miracle. It is taking people with you, understanding them and understanding yourself. We are not dictators. We are servants of the people. We are servants of the society. If you understand that much, I think public opinion will become material. Make our legislators understand. Make our IAS framework understand. They are the servants of the people. They must listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now request our guest of honor, Dr. J.S. Patil, to say a few words.
A distinguished law guru of our times, Professor V.B. Coutinho, Dr. K.M. Hanmantrayappa, Mr. Dakshinamurthy, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the end of the day. I had the opportunity of sitting throughout the day in one role or the other, and you must be tired of listening to me time and again. Friends, we deliberated upon the most important topic of our times, strengthening the democratization of lawmaking process in our society. Eminent speakers in terms of legal academic, judiciary, lawyers fraternity, men in media have made presentations and brought out to fore eminent ideas, great ideas as to how we can really revamp the whole structure of lawmaking in our society. Friends, I am sure that we will be taking all these points together under the leadership of our director of KILPA and go perhaps for a continued deliberation upon it as we realized that we were running short of time in every technical session, and we have to take very serious note of the hard work that has been done by the resource persons. Perhaps we will go for a follow-up seminar in Bangalore itself to concretize the ideas that have emerged here and perhaps in the ensuing continued seminar. Friends, as I made a reference to the kinds of things and the way in which Professor V.B. Coutinho in his very aggressive presentation of the thoughts made, we have to come together in taking stock of the situation. And I'm very proud to say that Karnataka has come of age in establishing vibrant institutions like KILPA to take a leadership role in these kinds of activities, to transform our society into the kind of a welfare state which has been contemplated under the Constitution. Friends, KILPA is the brainchild of Mr. H.K. Patil when he was the law minister, a very dynamic leader of our state, a committed statesman politician. Look at the way he transformed the very nomenclature of the department. From the Department of Law, he changed it as Department of Law, Justice and Human Rights. Look at the agenda that he framed for the department in terms of policy and action plan. And with the sincere and honest commitment, he attempted to execute the policy and action plan. Alas, had he continued as the law minister of our state, we would have seen the kind of a revolutionary change that has been contemplated in that policy and action plan. But then a few changes have been effected under his leadership in that short span of time. One effect is the establishment of KILPA. The other is the the initiation of the process of establishment of the Karnataka State Law University with headquarters at Hubli, and the Constitution of Human Rights Codes and the proclamation of the human rights rules, food security ordinance, and a lot of other legislation were in pipeline, but we could not go through those things. For the first time in the history of Karnataka, academic personnel have been involved in the lawmaking process, and the administration could really see the change in the whole aura of lawmaking, the kind of a new sprinkling of the new thoughts and ideas, and the new approach and perspectives that are brought about in the lawmaking process were really encouraging. And this is the way in which a dynamic process has been initiated by Mr. H.K. Patil. We have to go on record expressing our gratitude for the kind of a leadership that he posed to the government of, to the people of Karnataka. Friends, we are in for a Karnataka State Law University, through which we are looking forward for bringing about the quality in legal education and create the leadership qualities among our youth who can really add up to the kind of an activity which has been initiated by Kilpa. Kilpa and Law University are going to be the partners in this pious agenda of transforming Karnataka into a legally conscious society to transform the constitutional primordial goals of social, economic, and political justice and secure human rights to every common man and provide the kind of legal education which will drive justice to the doorsteps of people and then make our youth force to put their service before self and become the architects of our society. And in the very program itself, we are contemplating to develop the inputs of the type wherein our 50,000 and odd workforce of the student community are going to explode into the rural base and create the legal database with which they will get back to the government and then work as the facilitators in providing human rights and other kinds of the requirements and demands of the people in the rural. And this is the way in which we have to create the knowledge base for our society, in addition to helping the partners like Kilpa, Judicial Academy, Lawyers Academy, the Department of Law, Justice and Human Rights, and other partners, NGOs, in the process of making this kind of a egalitarian society. And then perhaps we will go a long way in our service as the vibrant institutions. And I look forward, because many of you are law teachers and law students, young teachers especially, to join our army of doing a quality and a unique type of a law university in the coming days. And I express my deep sense of gratitude to Professor Hanumantrayappa and Mr. Dakshinamurthy for giving me this wonderful opportunity of sharing a few thoughts with you. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to request Shri G. Dakshinamurthy to say a few words.
Learned dignitaries on the dais, Dr. V.B. Kutino, Dr. J.S. Patil, and Professor K.M. Hanumantrayappa, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. When the responsibility of presiding this valedictory function was thrust upon me, I felt really worried. How to keep your moods intact till at least the function was over. But two miracles happened, I tell you. One was that you found yourself very well at home with Dr. Kutino and your lot of professors here. So really, we didn't feel the time going. And in addition, that was enlivening the spirits, that really enlivened the spirits. And the second thing was an upliftment for my own spirits, which Dr. J.S. Patil gave in his speech. I have received not only suggestions for future action, I have also received that message of trust and confidence that you all and the public at large through you have thrust upon this organization, a small organization still making its ovation. So I did not want to really tire you anymore. Probably you are looking for the ending moments of the event. I would only point out, of course, Mrs. Jyoti Vishwanath has made my task simpler to an extent that she has given a very quick and neat summary of the outcomings of this seminar since morning. I need not repeat. And in Professor V.B. Coutinho's speech, you have got the whole essence of the theoretical implications of today's seminar, particularly what it meant by public participation, involving public in the participation in the lawmaking process. Earlier also in the day during the technical sessions, Justice Shivshankar but also made a similar view that he said involving or ensuring public participation does not mean physical consultation with the public, but the moods of the public have to be imbibed into the process. I found a reflection of the same thing in how Dr. Coutinho defined what it meant by public involvement. And he also gave a very effective account of how to channelize public opinion into the entire lawmaking process. Actually, I tell you, this was really a very purposeful, a very wonderful event that occurred today, with luminaries speaking at the inaugural and luminaries putting the cream on top of the cake. And I should thank Professor K.M. Hanumantrayappa, Dr. Suresh Nalgaudar, and others in the team for the interest they have evinced and the concern they have taken